Hi Pre-K, I hope you're having fun digital learning at home. I sure do miss seeing you guys, but I wanted to take a chance to just show you guys our bees and talk to you a little bit about our honeybees here on campus. So we're in the lower school library and we are going to learn a little bit about our Calvary beehive. So this is our beehive and you can see that it is nice and full. There are so many bees in our hive. All of these bees in this hive, though, have very different roles. So this is the front side of our bees, and you can hear them buzzing. They are busy bees. This is the back of our hive. And right now, during the spring, this is the best season for them to start pollinating and making honey. So we're going to talk a little bit about what the bees do and why they are so important. So I know that when I was your age, I did not like bees. If I saw a bee when I was out playing with my family or walking my dog, I would get very scared. I would hear the buzz and I would wave around and I would be so scared. But now I know that bees are so important. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions and I want you to raise your hand if you agree. I think strawberries are delicious. Raise your hand if you like strawberries. Okay, raise your hand if you like cucumbers. Raise your hand if you like bananas. Raise your hand if you like pizza. Everybody likes pizza. It's my favorite dinner on Friday nights at my house. Well, any of those foods that you eat, the reason that we can eat those foods is because of bees. So bees are called pollinators, and bees, birds, butterflies, and lots of other insects that fly are also considered pollinators. A pollinator is an animal that will fly to a flower and will carry the pollen, that yellow stuff that we see in the springtime on our cars or in our yard. It will carry that pollen to another plant so that the plant can bloom and make flowers and make fruits and vegetables just like we eat. And our bees are a great example of that. So our bees are very, very busy this time of year because all the flowers are blooming and the buds are out on our trees and our plants, and they use it to help pollinate and make the food. There are a couple of different kinds of bees in our hives. The first type of bee that we're going to talk about are the girls. So if you're a girl, raise your hand. Miss Hunt's a girl. Are you a girl? If you're a girl, you would be considered a worker bee in our hive. And our worker bees are so important. Most of the bees that we see in our hive, most of these are our girl bees. They're our worker bees. And our worker bees do just what they're called. They work. They work, they work, they work. All the work that a bee does happens with them. So they help raise the little baby bees. They help clean the hive. They help go out into, and this is our little area up here. You can see this little hole right here. They all come up here and they go out of this hole to Calvary's campus and out. And all of our bees will go out and they'll find pollen and they'll find flowers and nectar, the little liquids inside of flowers. And that's what they use to bring back and to make the honey in their hives. So our worker bees are very, very important. The other type of bee is our boy bee. So raise your hand if you're a boy. I'm not a boy, but raise your hand if you are. All right, if you're a boy bee, then you do nothing. You don't have very much of a role in the hive, but you are important because you help stay in the hive during the time of the spring season and when the bees are so busy. So the bees are important in both boy and girl roles. Now there's one bee that is in charge of the entire hive, okay? And the entire hive is controlled by and sort of taken care of by the queen bee. So the queen bee is the one bee that has been chosen to kind of rule the hive. So imagine mom at home. She's like your queen bee. She makes all the decisions. She keeps everybody in line and in check. She tells everybody what to do. And so you can see in this picture, there is a greenish yellow dot with the number 22 on it. In a hive like ours, it's considered a science or an educational hive, an observatory hive, what the queen bee does is they'll actually mark her. They'll put a little bitty sticker on her back, and that is how we can tell which one ours is. Ours has a bluish green one on her back, and that's how we can tell where she is on our hive. But with all these bees, it is very difficult for us to see her. She usually kind of hides inside, or a lot of the other bees will crowd around her. But she's the one that tells everybody what to do. And the queen bee is in charge of keeping the hive working and doing all the things it's supposed to do. So in our hive, there are a couple of different stages. The queen bee will lay all the eggs. The female bees will also lay the eggs. The eggs get fertilized, and then they turn into this larva stage. So after the egg hatches, it turns into larva. Then the larva begins to grow and develop more and more, just like we do when we're little. And we now have a pupa. So this is the pupa. And this shape, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. So that's a hexagon. This hexagon shape is what each of the cells are inside of our hive. So then the pupa begins to develop and mature and grow bigger and bigger until eventually it's ready to almost become the adult. So the worker bees, the female bees, will put a special wax material over the cell and they'll cap it nice and tight. And then the adult bee will come out and be hatched and fully formed. And then that's when they are now able to work inside their hive. So you can see that this is kind of a picture of that happening. Sometimes the cap goes on first, sometimes the cap comes on later. But here's a really cool picture of what they actually look like in the hive. So the egg becomes a larva, becomes a pupa, is developing more and more. You can see that cap on the top. Here's that waxy cap on the top. And then it develops into the full adult bee. Now, bees are really cool because they have a special way of communicating. So when you hear a bee, what do you hear? Make the sound that a bee makes. Buzz. Is that what you're all saying? Well, now you have to flap your wings. If you just say buzz, you're not doing it right because the wings are what actually make the sound. So when we hear that, it's because they're flapping their wings so fast that it's making their wings vibrate in the air and it creates the sound. So bees, like all other insects, have 3 main body parts. They have a head, they have a thorax, and they have an abdomen, a top, a middle, and a bottom. They also all have 6 legs, and bees have 4 wings, and those wings are what help them fly. Flying is also important because that's how they get from one flower to the other in order to pollinate it. But bees don't just fly anywhere and anytime. They follow the sun. The sun is like their compass or their map. So they follow the sun in order to find the flowers. They also have to have a way of communicating. They're very small, but they can fly for up to 5 or 6 miles to get flowers and to find flowers for their nectar and their pollen. So they have to have a way of communicating with each other. When they come back to the hive, they can communicate or tell the other bees where to go and where they've just found all of these good flowers and all of the different trees. So to do that, they don't talk. To do that, they don't use sign language like waving or saying thank you and please with their hands. Instead, they dance. So the most common dance that we see a bee do is called the waggle dance. So I want you guys to stand up, find some space, and I'm going to teach you the waggle dance. So bees on their bodies have these tiny little hairs, and their hairs are kind of like our eyelashes. It helps keep things stuck to them. So that's how the pollen sticks to them. Also, on their bodies, at the end, they have a stinger. And so the stinger is their tail end, and they use that part to really waggle. So a bee will go forward. Everybody move forward. A bee will go back. And then a bee will circle around in one direction. So if it circles to the right, it's telling the other bees that to the right is where to go. It's like they're giving directions. If they circle to the left, it means the other direction. So everybody ready? We're going to waggle. Go front, go back, and waggle to the right. Again, go front, go back, wave your arms, your wings, go waggle to the left. One more time, try a buzz. Front, bzz, back, bzz, and waggle to the left. Good job, you just communicated like a bee. So remember that bees are very important, but sometimes we are scared. We don't want to be scared. We don't want to worry about a bee trying to sting us, because here's what's important to always remember. Bees do not want to sting you. They're only going to sting you if they feel threatened or that they're in danger, to protect their hive, to protect the rest of the bees in their colony. So if you see a bee, instead of screaming, instead of flapping your arms, think about how much you like strawberries and cucumbers and bananas and pizza. Think about the beautiful flowers that we see in the spring and how important bees are for us. And think about the waggle dance. And the next time a bee comes near you when you're on the playground or going for a walk, instead of being scared, you can just buzz, 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 buzz. And I bet you and that bee will be friends and he'll leave you alone. I hope you enjoyed learning about bees today. You guys have a great day. I miss you so much. Hopefully I'll see you soon. I'm going to put on my bee suit now so I can take care of some bees. This is my jacket and my veil. You can see the net on the top to protect my face. These are my gloves. And here's the brush that I would use to gently brush them off. Bye, guys. Hey guys, I'm back. I wanted to show you some of the different things that we have up here that you guys can see that go with our hive. So remember we talked about the different bees in the hive, the queen bee, the female bees, the worker bees, and the boy bees, the drones. And so our female bees are super busy. They make the honeycomb that fills with the honey. So these are some examples of honeycomb that are empty, they're clean. The honeycomb may also fill with the eggs where the bees will grow and hatch. And the boy bees, although they don't work to get any of the honey or the pollen, they do protect the hive. And so it's very important that all of these different cells inside of here stay protected, especially when the worker bees fly out and fly back in. So it's almost like they're going to work every day to find their pollen and to find the nectar. And while they're gone, all the boy bees stay and protected. Now the boy bees are a little bit bigger, their bodies are larger. The female bees are a little bit skinnier, they're a little bit smaller in size, and so those big boy bees can fill up the hive really quick. So when we try and clean out a hive, when we need to, I showed you guys my brush earlier, when we need to get in the hive to help clean it out, or maybe to remove some of the cells that are full with honey so that they can have clean cells to start fresh, there are a couple of different things that we use. So this, I know that you can't feel the air yourself, but can you see my hair moving? So this pushes out air from this little vent right here. And so we'll just gently blow on it and it kind of startles them a little bit, and then we can brush them off. And if we're very careful and we're very slow, it won't scare them. And so the drones that stay in, we'll do it during the day like now when they're busy and they're out. And so the drones can kind of just move away while we remove those cells and then put a clean cell in. When we look at different hives, so in nature, sometimes our honeybee hives get so full that bees will do what we call swarm. And so this is a swarm of honeybees on a branch on a tree. And so what's really good is that sometimes we can create natural hives that have been man-made for bees to live in so that we don't see them swarming. And so this is one. So this is made from bamboo sticks that have been cut, and you can see they have these tiny little holes that are small enough for the bees to fit in, and they look similar to the cell shape. Remember we saw this hexagon cell shape before. And so the bees can come and lay in here and they can cover all of these up with wax. And so this is just a cool example. You can make these yourself and little ones like it too on to hang at your house or on a tree for the bees. And then finally, when we get our bees, this is what they come in. So this is just a cage box, and there's a plug that goes on the top. But when we first got our honeybees, this was filled with about 300 bees. And inside of this little box was the queen bee. And so here's the hole that she came out of. You can see how small that hole is. And she was down on this far side right here, and both of these little areas were filled with sugar. And she had to eat, and the worker bees had to eat through the sugar to help get her out. It was almost like a trap, and she had to escape out of it. And then once she was in the hive, then they all knew what to do. So some more cool fun facts about bees for you guys to remember as you're learning about insects this week.